actually led to a hot war between two major powers, the USA and the USSR. It caused massive impact upon the world, including American society. So they call it the Cold War, but it really wasn't a war. Most people like to call it like the Cold Era because there was never any like fighting or anything like that. Like no one fired on each other. It was really just kind of intimidation, like we have more missiles than you, or we're bigger than you, and our army's better, and all that stuff. What was the root cause of the Cold War? At the end of World War II, the USSR, which is the Soviet Union, encouraged the creation of pro-communist government in Bulgaria, Romania, and Poland, which was not difficult considering those nations were occupied by Soviet troops. So after World War II, the Soviet Union, they had all of these territories. And also they had parts of Germany where Germany was split up into zones after World War II. So it was like US on some, Soviet Union on some, Great Britain on some. So to the US it seemed like communism might just keep expanding, and this would mean the US would not have anyone to sell industrial goods to. These industrial goods included food, sports equipment, and electronic goods. So here's a Coke ad, and it's in a different language. And this was all the stuff like in record players at the time during the 1960s. Like guitars, really a lot of music stuff was really more of the electronics that we exported. And if everyone went over to communism, then we would have no one to sell anything to. And so that was scary to America because well, if we can't sell anything, how are we going to make any money? Containment. The focus of containment was to contain communism around the world, meaning communism could stay where it was, but it would not be allowed to spread. Specifically, these goals included blocking further Soviet expansion and encouraged destruction within the Soviet system. Kennedy and Johnson's main goal became containment, if that meant through intimidation or, if necessary, violent action. So do y'all understand what containment is? It was basically us saying, okay, you're okay where you are in communism, but if you try to spread it anymore, that's not going to be okay with us. And we were trying to block that off, and at the same time, we were trying to get into those communist governments and try to reroute it back to what we wanted them to do. Alright, the Bay of Pigs invasion. We're going to go over some of the stuff that Kennedy and Johnson did to try to contain communism, and some of them were good, some of them didn't work out at all, and really the Cold War was just a bunch of just back and forth. So we're going to go over some of the bigger stuff that happened. So the Bay of Pigs invasion. 1959, Fidel Castro overthrows Fulgencio Batista for power in Cuba. And Batista was a US-backed dictator in Cuba. So once Castro overthrows him, we're like, okay, well, he overthrows him, and we don't like that because that was the guy that we liked in there because he was kind of doing what we said. And so when Castro overthrows it, he kind of just starts doing his own thing. Castro seized large privately owned plantations and property owned by foreign corporations, including U.S. businesses. So after he overthrows Batista, he starts going in because Cuba has a lot of foreign plants and like factories and all that stuff where we make goods and we export and we import and all that stuff. And it wasn't just the U.S., a lot of other foreign countries had their stuff there. And he just starts coming in and overthrowing and seizing all of our plants, all of other foreign plants, and just basically saying, I'm going to do what I want, because they weren't doing what he wanted, so he just went in and said, this is how it's going to be. The U.S. then broke all diplomatic relations with Cuba. Castro then developed ties with the Soviet Union, and American officials began to fear the worst. So after the U.S. got out of Cuba, because they're like, well, we don't want to deal with you, like we have more stuff to worry about at home and bigger stuff to worry about. So they just pulled out of Cuba, said forget it, do whatever. And then after the U.S. leaves and cuts all ties with Cuba, Cuba goes and makes ties with the Soviet Union. And that automatically does means, okay, more communism, no big deal with that. Kennedy makes a plan to overthrow Castro, which led to a total disaster. Okay, the Bay of Pigs was really not good. It's really one of those things in American history you're just like, palm face. And an American airstrike failed to destroy Cuba's air force. So So we sent in planes to try to overthrow past